Hello everyone, I am the Wastelander, and in this video we'll be exploring some more freaky places in Fallout 3. Now, as I've mentioned before, these locations will be eerie, creepy, or even liminal. They just have an overall spooky vibe. Fallout 3 has a certain dark and gloomy atmosphere, and these locations will highlight that. Lastly, I just wanted to say that if you like Fallout, then please feel free to subscribe. I have some more videos coming up exploring Fallout locations that you might like. And with that out of the way, let's head to the first spot. We can actually see it right there. This will basically be our little warm-up, which works out perfectly because this is likely one of the first places you'll explore in Fallout 3, Springvale Elementary. Now on the outside it looks pretty ruined, as we can see there's no roof at all. But we can go ahead and head inside, and we're immediately greeted by a body up on the ceiling, a couple bodies over here, some bodies over here, and a cage full of little skeletons, which honestly I don't even remember this being here, but I think it really sets the tone for this game. There's also blood dripping down. That's crazy. I never noticed that either. That's some detail right there. So just this room alone is really freaky, and the fact that there's, well, kid skeletons, pretty horrifying. Of course, this place is full of raiders, which we'll have no problem getting rid of. There's another cage right there, and a classroom. I've mentioned it before, but anytime there's a hospital, school, or any building like that, it's just so much more creepy when it's abandoned, or there's enemies inside like these raiders. I think the difference between what this place used to be and what it is now really adds a layer here. Here's another cage. I mean, there are so many little skeletons. I'm like wondering if the raiders built this. I guess they would have had to. There's like no way this would have just been here when it was a school. But there's just so many skeletons. This place is so depressing. Look at all the handprints on the wall. Like I said, this place really sets the tone for Fallout 3. Everything's just so desolate and depressing. It works well for setting up the atmosphere. I guess any raider location in this game is pretty freaky, but this being a school just makes it a lot worse. Look at these lights coming through. Looks cool. It looks like they also had a mining operation going on in this basement, but ran into some ants. I think there's a magazine down here, and I think some more ants come out from up there. Yeah, here they come. Oh, there's the magazine. And that's Springvale Elementary School. Let's go ahead and head to our next location. I know this video just started, and I have plenty of locations to explore in this video, but honestly, I've been thinking of more for Fallout 3. I feel like Fallout 3 definitely has more like weird and spooky locations than any of the other Fallout games. Once again, there's just something about the atmosphere of this game. It's just really different than the other ones. Here we are, Vault 108. Now for this vault, we need to find some residents that are quite unique. We found one here, someone named Gary42. Now you might be wondering, why are there numbers in his name? Why isn't it just Gary? Well, you see, Vault-Tec was running an experiment here, and the outcome probably wasn't what they saw coming, and we get a little bit more information by seeing this door. Open door to Vault 108, cloning lab, and we see a couple enemies come up on our radar. I'm sure they're totally normal. These are the Garys, which are all clones, and they can only say Gary. Now getting rid of Gary 47 and 17, I can talk a little bit more about what's going on in this vault. So essentially, this vault had a cloning facility that was not meant for general use, but it was left unstable on purpose. Eventually, the cloning lab was used to make clones of one of the original residents, a guy named Gary. Soon after, the Gary clones went mad, and each clone created was more unstable than the last. They turned violent and drove away the rest of the original vault residents. Now they've degraded to how we find them, attacking anyone on sight and only being able to say Gary. Now they don't attack each other. I guess they recognize one another, but they sure don't like us. Looks like they were operating on this Wastelander here. Poor guy. But yeah, the Vault-Tec experiment here really got out of hand and led to many different Gary clones. We can actually find the female dorm here completely walled off. We can't get in there at all. So who knows what happened to those residents. Once again, I think all the vaults, especially in Fallout 3, are pretty creepy. But anytime there's one of these weird experiments going on, it makes it a lot worse. Anyway, we can go ahead and get out of Vault 108, the Gary Vault, and head to our next location. It'll be in downtown DC, so we'll have to go through a couple metro stations to get there, and that's always a good time. I mean, look at this shot of the metro station. It's in perfect ruin. He's shaking his head, he doesn't agree with me. I sure love little bugs like this in Bethesda games. We've navigated our way through the metros and finally found it. Our Lady of Hope Hospital. Now let's head inside. Entering the waiting room, we can see a couple skeletons over here, which really isn't out of the ordinary. Then we're greeted by this guy. The centaurs in this game are just so freaky. I mean, look at him. The tentacles coming out of his mouth and the bones sticking out of his body. He looks kind of like a walrus. Now, just like any super mutant location, there's the gore bags that are hanging up right there, which are pretty... Alright. Okay. Where did that come from? The skeletons coming out of the ceiling? I definitely don't remember that either. Look how destroyed the ceiling is. All the years of water damage. It's crazy that this place is still standing. Anyway, super mutant locations are pretty freaky because of all the gore bags, and super mutants are kind of freaky in and of themselves. Giant mutated humans. But truthfully, I think this place is kind of freaky because it's an abandoned hospital. And I think hospitals are kind of creepy anyway. And there's just a ton of skeletons in here as well, which, like I said, not that uncommon. Here's another pile of skeletons. They really do just litter this place. There probably is more than the average location. Just these long hallways are really spooky. It's just so quiet, so liminal. The little baby stroller right there. Oh. It was only a matter of time till I ran into one of those. This right here is foreshadowing. This is a good place to go for stim packs though, once you get past all the super mutants. Going on to the second floor, there's more of these really long hallways. Just the lighting in here is so great. All the particles in the air. Now we look to be in the cafeteria. I got rid of all the super mutants. There's a gas leak right there. There's some more gore bags. Really nothing too notable through here. And we've made our way through the hospital. Now that little bridge will go over to the Statesman Hotel, where you can work on the quest for Riley's Rangers, but we're not going to do that here. Just wanted to take a few and explore the hospital. Definitely a really eerie location. And with that, let's go ahead and head to another vault. We have now arrived. Of course, this location plays a big part in the main story, but it's a pretty freaky place. So we had to come and visit it for this video. Of course, on the surface, it's called Smith Casey's Garage. But once we hit this door, we see it's actually Vault 112. Then we see the vault door here. Heading inside, it's noticeably very clean. The lights are all on, but there doesn't look to be anyone here. It's very sterile and very empty. And this room is kind of creepy with all these scans on the wall. Then we can look down into the main area of this vault and see a lot of pods. And there's absolutely no one walking around. There's just some robots. Looking inside these pods, we can see people watching a screen. It looks like it's flashing through some images of a pre-war world. This one's empty. Let's join them. We arrived to some 1950s looking pre-war black and white area. It's a very surreal place we've arrived at, with a park in the middle. All the houses are pristine, but just below the surface there's definitely something more dark going on here. And of course we keep getting prompted to find our dad, which he's that dog right there. So what exactly is going on in this vault, and why are we in Tranquility Lane? Well, it all has to do with Betty right there. You see, the experiment of this vault was to see how people would react to indefinite life in a virtual world. And the creator is Betty, or rather Dr. Braun, who's pretending to be a little girl, which is pretty weird. He was actually one of the top scientists that Vault-Tec had in the pre-war years, and he created this simulation as his escape plan, his paradise, that he could do whatever he wanted with. Ironically enough, this is his playground, as he stands in a playground. These seemingly happy residents wandering around have been tortured psychologically for decades and decades, and we can read more about it inside of the abandoned house. Once we activate this terminal here, we can see 3 different entries of different locations that Dr. Braun has set simulations in. The first one reads, "I finally come to the realization that the Toucan Lagoon simulation has run its course. I'm tired of the beating sun and ceaseless pounding of the lagoon's waves upon the shore. I no longer take pleasure in watching Simpson wither away from scurvy, or hearing Nussbaum's screams as he's devoured by the Mako shark. I am, quite simply, bored. It is time to reset the simulation once again. I haven't been skiing in ages. So from that entry, we can see an example of him torturing these different residents for his own pleasure. Opening up the second entry, yesterday Dither slipped on the chalet's icy stairs, went airborne, and managed to impale herself on the wrought iron fence. It was spectacular and completely utterly random. Is there anything more sublime than that bold crimson on fresh fallen snow? It was almost enough to make me reconsider a change of scenery, but not quite. 23 years is a long enough vacation in the Swiss Alps. I long for something more domestic. 23 years on a ski resort in the Swiss Alps, and he really enjoyed seeing someone get impaled. Opening up the last entry, we can see where we are now, Tranquility Lane. I have surprised myself. I find Tranquility Lane comforting. Although distinctly American, it somehow reminds me of Cronach, the town of my childhood. There's a beautiful irony with this particular simulation as well. The residents here are naturally at home, naturally safe. When I toy with them, when their suburban illusion is suddenly broken, it's that much more satisfying. I do believe we shall all remain here in Tranquility Lane for a very long time. A very long time indeed. What we gather from reading those entries is these residents have been trapped here for decades, enduring some sort of torture that can't really be put into words. Dr. Braun thinks he'll be here forever, but of course we can change that by accessing the Chinese invasion. Now we can go talk to Dr. Braun.
Do you realize what you've done? You've triggered the failsafe, ruined everything. The subjects will die and I'll be stuck here in this hell alone.
You ruined everything. Everything.
I have to go now.
Run along now.
Why is that in there? Why isn't he still mad? Oh well. And that was Vault 112. Very liminal and odd place, with psychological torture going on to the residents there for decades. But now they're all free, and we can head to Point Lookout. I'll pretty much take any excuse to go back to Point Lookout. This intro is so good. It didn't play last time I came here for some reason. Pulling up to Point Lookout, we can walk through the abandoned docks here in Pilgrim's Landing. This place is pretty liminal, but not the main focus. I'm telling you, one day, I'm going to make a region lock video of Point Lookout. The first spot I want to visit actually isn't a marked location. That's it right there. Out front we can see 3 baby strollers. This one has some mines in it, but we can't disarm it, so that's cool. Cool. Heading inside, we're greeted to an entire room full of these baby strollers, and doll heads everywhere. Maybe this is where they produce these traps that we find in the capital Wasteland. Of course, these are rigged, so we'll step back a little. A couple of these are, so we'll just make our way through here carefully. These doll heads are so freaky. The red eyes. This location's so bizarre. There is a mini nuke in here, so definitely worth it to make it through. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this one. Bunch of freaky doll heads, baby carriages. Somewhere you could totally miss and never see in a playthrough. Heading just down the street, we see the Homestead Motel, our next location. Motels and hotels are often kind of creepy in this environment, but let's explore a couple of these rooms and see something really freaky. Heading into room 1G, we see a bunch of money on the ground, a shotgun, a couple skeletons. Looks like they had a little shootout here. Nothing too crazy. Kind of seems like it could be a reference to No Country for Old Men. The suitcase has money in it. There's a shotgun. Maybe that's stretching it. The room is surprisingly in good shape for being abandoned for so many years, actually. The TV is pristine. That room wasn't really the one we were looking for. Most of these are boarded up. But let's check 1D. We see a Chinese pistol on the table, and this is part of the Velvet Curtain quest, which we're not going to do here, but I'll take that stealth boy. And that'll leave us with one more room to check. What's that in the air? I can't really tell what that is. I don't know. Heading to the back side of the motel, we find room 1K. And this is the one we were looking for. There's these little obelisks, looks very ritual-like in here. There's blood that doesn't make any sense, and an axe on the bed. Looking in the bathroom, we can find the pint-sized slasher mask, which is one of 2 we can find in Point Lookout. Very creepy. So yeah, creepy abandoned motel with some sort of ritual going on in one of the rooms. Pretty freaky place. Man, I just love Point Lookout. Heading up this hill, we get to the Calvert Mansion. I like the greenhouse outside, that's nice. Let's head inside. I guess I'll help Desmond out real quick. This giant abandoned mansion really isn't that abandoned. It's full of tribals, but the scenery here is just so good. The way these chandeliers hang down, the wallpaper, feels very Victorian, feels ancient. Very similar to the Blackhall Manor, but I wanted to come and explore this one too. This room has a little playpen in it. This entryway is so cool too. These big chandeliers here. This place is just so cool to explore. We've fallen into the basement. Their wine storage. These people must have been pretty rich. All the mannequins. So eerie. This mansion is just massive too. And also tribals just popping out of the wall the entire time. So fun. This room really doesn't make too much sense. There's a mole rat, a Brahmin, and a mole rat skin hung up on the wall. So I'm wondering if Desmond did this. Kind of interesting to think about. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. It's just a cool old and creepy mansion. But I'll get rid of these tribals real quick and head to the next spot. Our next two locations are pretty straightforward and pretty similar, but I figured it wouldn't hurt to go check them out real quick. We can see one right there. This is the Ophi clan plot. Just a little cemetery all by itself up on this hill. It overlooks the Blackhall Manor. The only thing really of note is these really weird headstones with a face on it, which we'll see some more of soon. Also, someone dug up a grave and it has some Salisbury steaks, toy car, teddy bear. Could have been a child's grave, but it looks like a regular skeleton, so I don't know. Just an eerie little place. Let's keep moving. These little cars are so funny. Sometimes I forget they're in this game. We'll just wind our way around that church. We get to the Ark and Dove resting grounds. We see a lot of ghouls coming our way. From one cemetery to another, we can look around this one. Like I said, we see more of that headstone with the face on it. This is a much larger cemetery, by a lot actually, with the church in the background. Just has a really spooky feel here. It's also very quiet. Other than this being a really big cemetery, there's nothing really that notable here, but we will be back later. Not here, but a little lower underground. Let's go ahead and push forward in the main point lookout quest and head to a really trippy area. We can pass by so many of these dolls in Point Lookout. Very strange. Now, I know Fallout 5 probably isn't going to come out for another 10 years or so, but man, if it was located in New Orleans, that'd be so sick. Imagine more of this. More swamp, mutated alligators. They could do a lot with it, but they won't for quite some time. Here's some more headstones. We've made it to the Sacred Bog. We've been tasked to go here to collect seeds from the giant punga plant. And it really doesn't get weird here until we're about to leave. The bog itself is much like the rest of Point Lookout. Very swampy. I have a really vivid memory of playing through this area while I was at my grandparents' when I was a kid. I guess Point Lookout's a little nostalgic for me. Probably one of the reasons I like it so much. We've made it to the giant punga plant. Let's activate the seed pods. Well, that was easy. Let's go ahead and get out of here. And the trip sequence begins. This place gets pretty freaky because the entire way out, we're tripping out. We see a lot of weird stuff happen like that. Everything gets more and more trippy. This doesn't look right. Not right at all. The Washington Monument. Like what? Oh, look. It's our mom. Tough. Amada. Elder Lions. Moira, no. And the megaton bomb. And the last bobblehead. Dead mother. Life in a post-nuclear wasteland and not a friend in it. Yeah, you aren't exactly blessed. Let's talk to Mr. Burke.
No, don't try and get up yet. You'll only hurt yourself.
Getting out of the bog, we see we have a giant cut across our head. Has to be one of my favorite sequences in Fallout 3. Hallucinating and seeing all that so creative. Once again, makes for a really trippy area. Different than all the liminal and creepy places we've been to. And that'll lead us back to the Ark and Dove Cathedral. We can walk around the yard. There's just a bunch of punga fruit. All the windows are boarded up. All the vines on the outside look pretty cool. Looks like you can see the bottom part of the stained glass right there. And heading inside, it's actually such a cool location. The light coming through, all the vines, and then these cultists doing whatever that is. The church itself is just old, kind of spooky, but these tribals here make it really odd. It's a cult and a church. Imagine that. The way they're moving around. So freaky. All these people have basically had lobotomies. It's just overall a really weird vibe in here. We just talked to Nadine here and got a key to the well outside, which just happens to be our next location. As I mentioned before, we're going below that cemetery. Oh wait, that wasn't the key to the well. We'll go find the other way in. Here we go. Entering this cave, we can see all these roots hanging down. Nothing too weird. But as we move along, we get to this section of the cave. And this cave is just below the cemetery above. As we can see the coffins coming down, getting stuck in the roots. We can see an open one here. Many other coffins laying around. We can find Confederate hats, lever-action rifles. So this was a primary burial ground for the Confederate soldiers. Which just that alone. Whoa, there's an animation for climbing a ladder? That's wild. Never seen that either. And he just disappears. Anyway, just the fact this is tied in with the Civil War makes it pretty dark. This cave is such a cool location. Gives a lot of background to this area. Let's head on out to the next spot. Now, to properly go to the next location, we need to go talk to Obadiah in here. There he is. Obadiah has tasked us with getting his book back from the ritual site. Let's enter this basement. Going through this cave, looks to be some old structure right here. The skeleton poking out. All the brain fungus on the ceiling. The doll heads on a stake. It feels very ancient. We see another coffin right there. And these methane bubbles coming out of the ground, which you can actually pick up. Continuing along, we round this corner to see a little ritual site, which has a body there on the table, blood up on the wall, and the Krebekneth sitting here in this lectern, which we'll take. This area is just so bizarre. We can also find the ritual knife right here. And on the way out, we'll see some more swamp folk, which are some really unique enemies. Some of them have human flesh on them, so they're also cannibals. Anyway, we can go ahead and head out of here to our final location. Now we can enter Turtle Dove Detention Camp. I'm going to clear out these enemies real quick. Entering this location triggers this event where a bunch of ghouls attack as well. Now that that's over, we can actually start looking around. So what exactly is freaky about this place? Well, part of it is in the title, Detention Camp. This area acted as a concentration camp in pre-war America for those who were suspected to be Chinese agents. There were interrogations done here, and the conditions were terrible. We can see some of that here. Looking in this barrel, we see it looks like someone was tied down, maybe interrogated and drowned here. This shack is named Interrogation Room A. Looks like someone was hooked up to some sort of electric chair and were asked questions. Then there's Interrogation Room B, which it looks like someone was operated on here or just tortured. There's a bunkhouse as well, which is very cramped. Looks like there would have been 10 people living in these quarters. Looks like this one axed the other, and there's still bloodstains on the wall. This one's boarded up. But then we have Bunkhouse A, which looks to have held even more people. There's 16 beds in here, and no bathroom. As we can see from those buildings, the people brought here not only were cramped, but electrocuted and tortured as well. This building over here is also boarded up, as well as this one. In the back of this truck, there looks to be 3 skeletons of people they were bringing here. Then finally, we have this last building, Administration. Inside, we find a stockpile of guns and ammo, and a bunch of filing cabinets. Nothing major in there, but looping around, we find a basement, or rather a shack door to a morgue. Down here, we can find where all the bodies were held. A skeleton still laid out on the table. In this room, we can see where they used to cremate people. We can hit the button here, turn it on. There's also this manhole, which was likely used as an escape hatch. And that's the Turtle Dove Detention Camp. I think the scariest part of this one is how similar this is to some real life events. The dark history of Fallout sometimes reflects the dark history of the real world, as we can see here. But that's about everything from me, so I'll go ahead and finish it here. I appreciate you watching the video, and I hope to see you next time. Bye now.